Hello from all of us at Torchlight. As we try to make sense of these times and we continue to work and to create and to imagine, Torchlight would like to throw some light on what this pandemic and lockdown have meant for library work. So many of us have turned to the internet for everything, for work, for communication, for entertainment, for a sense of engagement. And there are new and inventive ways of using the internet that people are trying out. Even as these need to be celebrated and expanded, it's important that we remember that the internet is a land across another border for so many in our country, an uncrossable border for those without a smartphone, without an internet connection, and for so many still even without electricity. As access to information becomes privilege, it's important that our conversations focus on these digital divides. And to do this in the context of library work, we have with us today Rituparna Neog and Nayan Mehrotra. Rituparna is a library worker from the fragile island of Majuli in Assam. And Nayan is a storyteller and library educator, a graduate from Azim Premji University, and has been working with grassroots organizations for the last 7 years. So welcome both of you, and we'd really like to know more about how the two of you have responded to the lockdown in your own way, in your own ways, in your work. But first, if you could begin by telling us how you actually arrived in the library. So who'd like to go first? Nayan?
Yeah, thank you, Samina, for this opportunity to talk to you about work and about how we are dealing with this confusing and isolating time. So if I begin how I started work in library sector, I was a teacher for 4.5 years and I taught in classroom and I realized the power of stories. And after that, I started doing consultancy where I lost connect with children on day-to-day basis. And I had a lot of books with me. So I wanted to start a small library and I started that with a very small collection of books and with 7 children at my home. So it's a home-based library. And since then, I have grown so much and I did LEC from Bookworm Goa, which also brought a different shift towards my library work.
And Rituparna, how did you enter the library space?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much, Samina and Torchlight, for giving both of us this space so that we can share something and we can get feedback from people. My journey to library, it started with my personal experience because since my childhood, I wanted to do something and I always had the aspiration that I will have a library. But what kind of library, how it will look like, I was not clear and I did not knew everything. And I did not trained in library as well. So when I was working in Guwahati, that time I first saw one library, community libraries by Richa Borua. The organization is Northeast Educational Trust, and I saw, oh my God, library can be like this. And then when I shifted to Majuli, and luckily I got into a space, the library, and I am just seeing the library work. So then I got an opportunity to attend one workshop by a small course by Bookworm Goa with the support of Wipro Foundation, and that workshop, and where Nayan was also a facilitator, and that workshop helped me to get lots of insights about library work, and now I can say that in this direction I want to go, and this library work I really want to take it seriously. So I'm learning every day, and whatever I'm learning, I'm trying to implement in my practice. Yeah.
So let's move to the lockdown, since that's really the focus of our conversation. How have you responded to the challenges that has thrown up? How have you coped with the lockdown? Nayan?
So, Samina, there were many challenges. In the beginning, I was kind of lost because I didn't know how to reach to children. And I really didn't want to dive into online space immediately because there was so much happening and, it was kind of overwhelming for me. as well. So I was just thinking from a child's perspective that there is so much coming online and so much screen time. Do I really want to contribute to it? But as I thought about the kind of work and the importance of it, I thought that, even if I share one story a day with children, and even if the parents read aloud these stories and don't, give them actual screen time, it's going to contribute something rather than having nothing at hand, or, having a distant period from stories and from books. So that's when I started sharing stories online. And
So, what is the form that it took?
I record stories, and I upload it on YouTube channel. And recording was very tough because I didn't have all those fancy instruments and all. So I was very worried whether I should do it, because it's not really my forte of work. I like connection with children, and I like taking in-person workshops and sessions. So this was something new which I tried. I don't know that I will continue with this post COVID, because I really don't want this as to be my area of work and
Not,
focus area.
not the new normal for you.
No, because I think we have to come back to the human touch, and having human element and that connect in the library. That is so important.
Mm.
And one more thing which I was experiencing as a biggest challenge was, stories bring more sense when you discuss and when you share ideas and when you share perspective. So I was just thinking, if I'm just sharing it with children, how will they respond to it? And it's then they're building a linear idea around that story, which was not how I want to do storytelling. That's why I ask a lot of questions in between, which make them think, and they have to connect the story to their own life, to the outside world, and to their past experiences. So that's when I started weaving few questions, because I can't directly have a conversation, but through those questions they engage with the story meaningfully.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's really, so that is, I think, one of the things that for those of us whose work depends so much on the connection with people, that is something which we are still struggling to figure out, like how do we find the ways in which those connections can still be maintained. Rituparna, how have you responded, and what has been actually like what has been the context in Majuli of your work? Like, how do you reach out? Do you work only with children, or is it across different groups? And then in this lockdown context, what were the challenges for you?
Okay, yeah. So basically, we work with children and government school teachers. So just one day before the lockdown, I just could cross the river, because from the very next day, our district administration, they gave a halt in the ferry service. So I just had a few storybooks with me, English storybooks, which I just newly bought, and I was like, okay, just for 5 days. Initially, it was just for 5 days, and I was like, okay, for 5 days, this is enough, and I just came home. And then when it got increased, then I'm like, what to do now? How I will cope up? So, and I was mentally devastated for the initial few days, looking at all this atmosphere, like from hate to the uncertainty to everything. And then I was down, thinking of what our work will look like, how we are going to continue our work. So many thinking were there. I was upset. I was locked down in my room actually. All of a sudden, this one fine morning, I decided that I will go for a walk, and I went for a walk, and I just looked around the flower, my mother's garden, and slowly I started getting good vibe, and I felt that being upset what you are doing, if you can't do anything, just being upset, how it's going to help you. And at the same time, I had conversation with Noyan, and at the same time I had conversation with Sujata about library work as well. But that time nothing happened with me. But then I got connected to some of my old friends, some of my seniors, or other people whom I met through the NGO work and all. Then we started an online campaign for relief work. And the initial few days, I was so busy with that relief work, and somehow really helpful for me to be, mentally satisfied or mentally doing well. Because through that work, when we were being able to reach out to people, I was satisfied, I was feeling good. So it was kind of a selfish for me as well. So then I started thinking of like, I am away from children now. I can't reach out to the children. Only few children, they have mobile phone at their home, so that I can make a call and I can ask how are you and all. And I am not, of course, but, very well going with technology and all these things stuffs. And the main thing is that when you can't have interaction with children for your library work, then what is the meaning of that word? So all these questions were there in my mind, and I texted Nayan actually, because by that time she started her initiative, and she used to send her story to, like, to me as well every day. And I asked Nayan, see Nayan, I also want to do something like this, and what do you think? Should I go ahead and all? Nayan just told me, "Aki, just do it." So children will give you feedback, they will give you response, and then you will see whether you want to do or not. And at the same, and this same thing actually Sujata also told me, that being upset, what you will do if you were being able to do something. And we had conversation about this digital divide as well, because with the children with whom I work every day, I'm not being able to reach out to them directly now through my online storytelling as well. So some other person who told me that it's fine for as of now, if you are reaching to some other children who really don't look at this story side or something like this, just do it. So, and then I started doing it, and there were lots of challenge for me, because I did not have hard copy of books with me in Assamese. So, and then I started doing, and I relied upon Storyweaver. There was also not much Assamese books as well, available as well. So I started translation as well. So at that time, I used to translate the book by fixing and doing everything. And selection of story was also a very tough work, because the Storyweaver is like a, sea, and you have to carefully curate the books for children.
So
So at the day,
that was my next question actually. That what about the selection of stories in this form? What are the things that that has thrown up for you? What have you learned? How have you had to adapt to that?
okay. So since I was saying, so I will continue. Yeah. So because I did not have this material, I did not have this book. For me, it was the toughest job. So when I first start doing some online storytelling session, that time I had this liberty from a English book. I can just translate it and I can tell it in my own way. But for read aloud, you have to go with that book, and you don't have that. So I was looking for alternative approach, how I can record the story. So then this PDF format was there, which you can do screen record. You can be in one side, then books will be also visible for the children or for the audience. So I was like, only Storyweaver is the option for me. So I started looking at Storyweaver, and the toughest job was the story selection. So for that, initially I was going for the level wise, because in Storyweaver you have this leveling that category. So that's really helpful. And I was not really going for level 4 or most of the level 3 books, because it has lots of text, and those books you have to have go for lots of discussion in the read aloud session. So I really did not thought about level 4 books. So I was looking at mostly level 2 books. And then few things I kept in mind, that some things which is contextual of this weather or decision right now, which children can get engaged. Like once I did one storytelling session, then I got feedback from children that they want to hear rainbow story about rainbow, because now it's a rainy season in Assam, and now we can see rainbow as well. So then I started looking at rainbow story in Storyweaver, and I found lots of story. Then I went to a story from Africa, and then I translated it and I recorded. So these challenges are there, that not lots of resources are available for you. Whatever is available, you have to be very much careful that how you are selecting, how you are taking. There is some translation available, but all the translation are not really up to the mark that you can rely upon. So many things are there, but somehow I'm going in between, because now I'm not taking every day one story. In a week, I'm taking 3 to 4 stories.
So Nayan, what has been your experience in terms of story selection in this context?
So it was quite important activity for me as part of the online storytelling series, because it's the story that brings everything. So while selecting the story, I used to think why, which book I'm selecting, why I'm selecting that book, and if I'm rejecting, what are my criterias of saying no to this book for an online storytelling. So first, I used to look whether children will be able to connect to this story. Second, I also used to read the story and see if it's not bringing any stereotype, how the stories are being presented and all. And it was a good exercise to read my own collection also. And third thing was I'm not taking stories which are talking about too many contexts at the same time, too many things at the same time, because for children it's important, it's easy when you do it face to face. You can have different kind of discussions, and you can moderate the discussion beautifully. But if you're doing the sessions online, and if parents and children take it otherwise, then the whole purpose of doing the session is somehow lost. So in that sense, I didn't take stories which were quite based on a very, very dark reality of the society, because I don't know how parents are responding to it, and how children are they ready, are they even ready to listen to such stories. So that's why I chose stories which are quite relatable in some sense, and second, on which they can respond to some of the things which connect to their immediate reality and to their world of fantasy.
So there are two things that actually have come out of both your responses, which is something that I guess we need to really think about, even as we are celebrating this explosion of art on the internet. One is that, as Rituparna said, that he didn't go for the level 4, right? So that means that there's a certain age beyond which we are sort of not able to engage with children in this form, right? And the second, it's an important point that you make, that because you're not physically present to be able to moderate a more complex discussion, you end up having to take more simple stories with more simple contexts, and that also then becomes something which means that so many other things are going to be left out. So these are two there. I mean, this is a kind of, it is something that for all of us as practitioners, we need to think about that, because it's not enough then to just celebrate the whole digital experience, because it is coming with these caveats, isn't it? Yeah. So that's, thank you for those insights. That's really important. Yes, Rituparna, you have something to say.
No, I was just saying, totally, I agree with your point that this digital option is not our, that alternative at all. It's just some part you can do, not at all, because you can't have discussion, you can't have interaction. And even when Nayan did one live session, storytelling session, I understand how difficult it is for her to pretend that there is some audience in front of her, and she asks such nice question to us, and we can't even reply, and she can't even listen to that reply.
So that's sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Fine. Yeah.
So that was my next question, was actually about feedback. Like both of you said that, so we wanted to just do it and wait for the children's feedback. So how are you getting that feedback?
So I will talk about my sessions. So I'll talk about both the sides. At times it's quite depressing when I check the number of views on a particular video and it's just 33, and I'm like, oh my God, I sent it to so many people and only 33. It means I'm not doing a good job, or there's no need to do this online. And I'll sit back and continue when the post-COVID everything is normal, then I'll continue my work and all. But on the other hand, the moment I start thinking about all these depressing things, I should stop and not do it, I'll suddenly get a message from some parents saying that, sending a video of how the child is interacting with me when I'm asking questions, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. in such a way, and the child was actually talking to me. Yes, this will happen now. Okay, so move next. So like that child was talking to me, and I was so impressed. And second thing which I kind of hold it so beautifully is these stories have reached to many people whom I don't know, and now they are contacting me, and now they are calling and saying that, we got your number through this person and we really liked it, and our child made this thing for the first time by her own, and which I thank you for this. And so somebody just texted me yesterday that, will you continue with edition 5 or are you going to take a pause, because my child is asking this question, are we going to have more sessions? So I think these are small success that I celebrate. But at the same time, I feel sad that I'm not reaching to children whom I should be reaching at the moment. But this should not stop the work that I do. Eventually, I will get there, and there will be a way to go to those children also. So these small successes really excite me and motivate me to record and do more.
So Rituparna, what about you? How did you, especially because you're saying that you're now working with the children that you normally worked with, and you're working with a new set then, no?
Yeah. So I was hesitant at first that should I do or not, but then when I started getting feedback from children and especially from adults, and it was a high point for me, like because so many adults from my network, they messaged me that after a long period of time we are listening to a story, and thank you for that. That in this depressing time, I know I am getting mentally motivated because of this story. And then I did one story, this not exactly story also, this Rainbow Boys and Rainbow Girls by Kamala Devi. And so many girls, they messaged me. They were like, there was no one to, read this book for us. There was no Kamala Hassan to write this book for us. There was no Priya Kurian to, illustrate this book for us. And thank you that you have introduced this book to us. And that was really motivating point. And whenever I go for dilemma, I used to check this message that okay, you have to continue because you are getting this kind of response. Then and another beautiful experience of what happened with me, being from a regional language where we don't have much resource online or whatever, like I got text for message from some parents, especially from mothers who are living outside India. Like I got message from one mother who is residing in China, another one is from, she's residing in Qatar, and both of them are from, Assam, and they are like, this is so nice that our children, we can give some reliable source to listen to Assamese, the other mother tongue, and I'm so happy, and I was touched actually by that, and because it's a very big thing, for me as well, because I have always this kind of thing about Assamese language because the regional language, how we are creating resource, how we are making it, reach every day. So, and those were really high point. And what I feel, then I got feedback whenever I share about this dilemma that whom these things should go or with whom I work, they are not getting. So once one Didi, she told me that, see, in urban space, people eat junk food every day and the Maggie from everything, but there have to be someone who have to tell that you should go for organic these things, you have to go for vegetables as well to the children. So with those urban children, you were doing that. Only not cartoon comics and all, that story is also there. So you were doing good. So don't worry about that. It was little bit humorous from her, but in a lighter tone, she actually gave me a big insight actually. And
So
later on,
that's important. So what what I am understanding from you is that although the children that you worked with normally and many of the issues, the concerns that come with the digital divide, those are there, yet there are also new ways of reaching out to people who perhaps you wouldn't have reached out to before, right? The child in China and the child in Qatar would not have perhaps had that chance to be able to listen to a story in Assamese if you hadn't done this. So I suppose we need to be able to remember that there are some good things that are coming our way because of this lockdown, but we cannot forget that the digital divide means that we cannot rely only on this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So before we end, I very quickly just wanted Ritu, for you to talk about this other initiative about book talks that you have started.
Kita pe
Kitab,
kotha koi.
yeah.
Okay, so but how this thing came in reality? So I was about to go for LEC, Library Educator course. Then everything got a pause, and then I had this plan to start a library in my village, like where I belong in Jorhat district, and but I can't do it right now, and I have to wait for a long time. That also I know, but it doesn't mean that I will not find out some alternative way also. So then there was another thing. Whenever, like, because I'm working in this library setup for 2 years now, I feel that there is not much information available in Assamese about good children literature, or people are not really talking about books in for children. There are so many magazines and all. They talk about books for adults and all. They have book review section. Everything is going good, but for children there is scarcity. So from that point of view, that okay, you are struggling with these things, but why you are complaining? You go and create by yourself, and you take help from other people. So from that, then I started writing from my Facebook wall only. Initially from my wall only. This title is Kitap Pe Kotha Koi Book Pics, and then I used to write about the book, sharing some picture of this in Assamese and English both. And then people are reaching out to me. Oh, you are doing good. That now I got to know about this book on gender, how I can talk about the children and all. Then I'm like, okay, maybe I have to think it little bit another way. Then I started this Facebook page called Kitap Pe Kotha Koi,
I
and
see.
through that I'm talking about books. And then I have two friends with me, Manasi and Zebin. Both of them are helping in different ways. And then I'm sharing our stories from that Facebook page, because through that I am being able to reach out to new people, the people whom I don't know, because you
Correct.
can't add everyone in your own Facebook account. So this is another thing. And then I started the one YouTube channel as well, again Kitabe Kotha Koi. So that another challenge which I face as a library practitioner, that again you don't have lots of resource, which, like, talking about library space, talking about community library, talking about children literature. Then I was like, okay, this lockdown period is a good time again to do this kind of session through Zoom, record and upload. So I started, connecting to people who are, doing lots of initiatives like community library, rural library, and then who are writing in Assamese for children or the publisher. So I have designed some 7, 8 episodes for it. I'm recording it now. I have recorded 5 episodes so far, and I have released 2 episodes till now. And twice in a week, I'm releasing everything. And this I will be able to utilize as a resource in training, reference for other people, and I will try to transcribe as well, and I will make it available in blog also. Because yeah, day before yesterday, I had a record with two writers, and it was really insightful session for me as well. And I felt that there was this need, because they also gave me this feedback that this is something new, it's happening, that we are talking about children literature in online platforms. So yeah, I'm hopeful that this platform will go beyond lockdown as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to draw upon the new things that have emerged and make that sort of part of the way forward, while somehow finding ways to bridge the digital divide. So Nayan, what do you see in the future for yourself, very quickly?
I would like to go back to the old style of working where I get to meet children. And though I will explore this digital space, because I'm not denying that it holds some power and it has some capabilities, but at the same time, my heart lies in the live sessions and, interacting with children face to face. So I would like to go back to that.
Thank you. So I think just to sum up, what it has thrown, I think for both of you, what it has thrown up is that there are ways that we could reach out to new places, to new people, to new readers, to new groups of children. And it is also, I think there's a kind of entrepreneurial spirit that I think it has thrown up for both of you. No, you have explored new ways of engaging and creating work. And yet, because there is the form of the work demands a certain simplicity, that means that there are many things that will be actually left out, and that there are limits to this. And therefore it's important that we remember that you know that there will be many complex contexts that we may actually not be able to talk to children about because of the form. And that's something that, you know, we have to remember, because actually the world is becoming more and more complex, and we need to find ways to actually talk to children about these complexities. So our forms will have to be able to do that. So I hope that in the future you will both find that good mix between the new digital normal and the old normal, and together we sort of find a way of being in this post-COVID time in a productive and collaborative way. Thank you both for talking to us today, and we look forward to seeing your videos as well.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.